We do want to jump back out to News 4's Caroline Hecker. She joins us live in front of City Hall in downtown St. Louis, where this morning police have moved in to move out protesters who have been camped out. Caroline, what's happening right now?
Well, Paige, we just spoke with police. You can see the protesters in line behind me. There's been a lot of screaming here in the last 5 minutes. We've seen a lot of police, like we saw in that last live shot, huddling up. But we just spoke to a police officer. You can see the squad cars behind us. They're ready to pull out. They're trying to figure out how they're going to get out of here. The perimeter has been set up around the entirety of City Hall. What I can tell you is that the police tell me they are going to leave the area like we were talking about. They're going to disperse. But they're going to try to keep an eye out for any protesters that, again, if they so choose to go back on City Hall property, they will then be trespassing and can be arrested. However, what we have seen, there are a couple people in this crowd of protesters that are visibly armed right now. We have seen that. There was one protester that was here yesterday morning when we were out here, appeared to have some kind of long rifle over his shoulder. So we are being careful. There has been no sign of violence. There's been a lot of yelling. We have not seen any arrests at this point, but as you can see, very, very, very hostile. I have not seen the police responding to any of this yelling that you see the protesters doing, other than to tell them to get back. Largely silent other than that. But like I said, the police are still here. They said it took a little bit longer than usual, or what they were expecting, I should say, to put the perimeter up around the entirety of City Hall, which they have done. But now it's like they're just trying to formulate some kind of a plan, because where we're standing on Tucker is technically still closed, and it's closed down past Market as well. But we've seen them gradually beginning to reopen the street. So our guess is that once the police leave, these protesters will be forced likely to get onto the sidewalk at the very least. And then again, it's a waiting game that remains to be seen what the next move is of the protesters. I can tell you from the ones we've spoken to on Saturday morning, they told us they plan to sit on City Hall property no matter how many times they are evicted. And I apologize, there is a little bit of language that's being used here by some of these protesters, especially with that the one you see right there yelling at the police officer. But again, largely quiet. If we turn around really quick, there is this line of police cars that have been here all morning. They were kind of blocking everything off, allowing the city crews to get through and do some of the cleaning out here on the front of City Hall. They hauled away a lot of the supplies and a lot of the air mattresses and couches and things that the protesters had brought out here late Friday night after just being evicted early Friday morning. So it looks by and large they're done. They've been huddling up. They've been creating a plan. So really right now, Paige, like we've been saying for the last 45 minutes, it's a waiting game. It's really clear the police are trying to be very strategic about how they approach this, because again, once this opens that back up to traffic, you've got a steady flow of traffic going through here in downtown. These protesters, like I said, have indicated to us they are not going anywhere. So it remains to be seen what's going to happen when the police leave here out front of City Hall in downtown St. Louis, and whether they choose to disperse or if they choose to go back onto the property.
Yeah, and Caroline, speaking of strategies, I know that our crews have been out there, I think before the 5 o'clock hour. Interesting to note that on Friday, when police came to disperse the protesters, again, it was in those overnight early morning hours around 4 a.m. So we will, of course, work to learn more about the planning that has gone into this, as well as we have reached out to the mayor's office and trying to learn what comes next. I understand that you'll be staying on scene there and bringing us any developments as this continues to evolve this morning.
I do have one thing to add, if I can. One thing I want to add is that when we spoke to the protesters yesterday, they told us that the protesters are coming out in shifts. Now, we heard Friday morning when they were removed and evicted from the property from police that it was peaceful. It took about 2 hours. Everybody was moved. So because they told us they come out in shifts, it's very possible, we have not confirmed this, it's very possible that this group of protesters is different than those that were evicted on Friday morning, which could explain why the response, at least when it comes to the hostility and such, is different when you compare it to early Friday morning.
Very good point, Caroline. Thank you for that perspective. And again, we will check in with you again in a couple minutes.